everybody, and welcome to Probation Officer's Perspective. If you're new to my channel, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. Hit that notification bell to all so you'll be notified of all the new content that I'm pushing out. Thumbs up, thumbs down, leave a comment down below. And I want to thank everybody for their support. Without your support, there will be no channel. Okay, so let's dive into this new, as you've seen on the thumbnail, this inmate killed a detention officer in a county jail in Texas, Ellis County, Texas. So let's start off with, well, we'll watch the news clip and then we'll go from there. And because I like to get different views, different news media outlets, because they got they all have different perspectives on it. I mean, the same outcome, the same thing, but one interviews the family of the inmate that killed the officer, and then the other one just talks about the killing of the officer. And then I want to go over some other things like his background, what he was in jail for. They don't talk about that. And something that I caught in the one of the videos, I scoured and watched several videos to get this. So let's get on with it. Let me make myself smaller here. All right.
Tonight, the Texas Rangers are investigating the death of an Ellis County detention officer. Investigators say an inmate killed Officer Isaiah Bias yesterday. He had been with the department for 6 years, and court records show the attack was captured on jail surveillance cameras. Sophia Beausoleil has more from Waxahachie.
The Ellis County Sheriff says detention officer Isaiah Bias was moving an inmate back to his cell when the inmate attacked and killed the officer.
Ellis County Sheriff Brad Norman says 28-year-old Isaiah Bias was a detention officer who was family-oriented and enjoyed the profession of law enforcement.
He loved what he did. He loved the people he worked with, and everybody around him loved him.
The sheriff first met Bias as a teen when he signed up for their Explorers program. After attending Navarro College, Bias joined the Ellis County Sheriff's Office almost 7 years ago. But on Monday afternoon, whatever hopes and dreams the officer had for his career came to an end.
I can honestly say that my staff over the last day has dealt with pure evil.
The sheriff's office says 45-year-old Aaron Simeon Thompson was in the Ellis County Jail since last month with 3 counts of assault on a public servant and evading arrest. The sheriff says the inmate was isolated in a cell for 23 hours a day with only an hour of recreation time. According to an arrest warrant affidavit, Officer Bias was taking Thompson back to his cell when the inmate followed the officer to the second floor, punched Officer Bias in the head, choked him, and continued striking him. Afterwards, the inmate sat down at a table on the first floor. An additional officer arrived and put handcuffs on Thompson. Officer Bias died at the hospital.
It was a heinous, horrific, purposeful murder that was senseless and not needed.
The sheriff's office says it won't go into more detail because Texas Rangers are investigating. The sheriff says right now he's focused on Isaiah's family and brothers and sisters in blue.
Everybody here that worked with him in the jail loved him. He was one of the kind of guys that if you needed help, he'd come help you. Outstanding person.
In Ellis County, Sophia Beausoleil, NBC5.
And the suspect is
All right, so that's one. And then we got another one. So it's a tragedy. I mean, this detention officer, correctional officer for the county jail, being brutally beaten by another inmate. I don't know if you've caught, but he was on 23-1, he was locked down 23 hours, only allowed out for 1 hour rec a day. With his violent past, which we're going to get into a little bit. They won't release everything, but this video here kind of tells you a little bit about it. Now, the families always, and I don't understand, I never could understand this. I mean, I guess I could. I mean, you want to, if one of my kids or something like that did some heinous act, of course, I'm going to want to try to put out there, that they had issues or they were great people or, whatever. But, when they do something like this and trying to make up excuses of why, and yes, mental health is real, but let's watch this because they interview the inmate's family and what they had to say about it.
Tonight, the family of an Ellis County inmate charged with murdering a corrections officer is mourning the man's loss and calling for change. Investigators say Officer Isaiah Bias was attacked in the jail by Aaron Thompson. NBC5's Keenan Willard spoke with Thompson's family. They say this never should have happened.
Investigators tell us it happened here inside the Ellis County Jail yesterday afternoon, with Thompson now charged with capital murder. Thompson's loved ones tell us that he was first arrested during a mental health crisis, and he needed help he couldn't get in jail.
All right, I'm going to stop right there. His family said it was a mental health crisis is why he was arrested. I'm going to show you what he was arrested for here in a minute. This time. But that the county, he was in there for a month, over a month, or a month at least. And there's no, so when you go to the county jail, anyone that's been to the county jail, worked in a county jail, I've done both, where I've been in the county jail and then I've been in the county jail. They go through all your medical. Okay, and if you have any mental health issues or whatever, A, you're going to be segregated. B, you're going to be on watch, whether it be suicide watch and you're going to be medicated because the doctor's going to give you medication if whatever medications you were on the street. As far as mental health goes, they will try to accommodate that, not always to the T, but you are going to get them mental health medication. But let's go on so we could hear what his family has to say, the inmate's family who did the killing.
The Ellis County Sheriff's Office is mourning the loss of detention officer Isaiah Bias, a 6-year veteran of the department.
Everybody here that worked with him in the jail loved him. He was one of the kind of guys that if you needed help, he'd come help you. Outstanding person.
An arrest affidavit says while working yesterday, Bias tried to return inmate Aaron Thompson to his cell. The document says Thompson struck Bias in the head using his right fist, causing him to fall to the ground, and started choking Bias from behind with his arm around his neck. Bias died from his injuries at the hospital.
It was a heinous, horrific, purposeful murder that was senseless and not needed.
Thompson was jailed after being charged with 3 counts of assault on a public servant. His family tells NBC5 Thompson was arrested while having a mental health episode. NBC5 hasn't been able to review arrest documents or other records concerning Thompson's mental health.
The police have been to the house several times and even taken him to Parkland to the psych ward.
Family members say before his health deteriorated, Thompson was well known in Ennis as a rapper. They say he went downhill after having a brain tumor removed during a previous stay in prison.
Okay. Did you catch that? Previous stay in prison. So he's been to prison. I couldn't find anything on his background as far as of right now, but they just talked about it. Now his mother was talking about he had a mental health condition after they said that, he had a brain tumor or a tumor removed from his brain. While he was in prison. So let's keep going.
People are going to look at him as an inmate, as a criminal, when really he just needed some help that only a professional could give him. Only someone that could prescribe medication can give him, not a correctional officer.
All right, so I call bullshit on this too. This is what I'm talking about. When families take somebody who's done something like this, they want to blame it on, he needed this mental health help. Well, he committed crimes, number one. That's why he was in jail. Number two, like I said, they do a health evaluation on you before you go, or when you get booked into the county jail. Okay, and he'd been in there for a month or over a month. So, whether he was or wasn't taking his meds, nobody knows. They're not saying. She's trying to say that he shouldn't have been in jail, that we're going to paint this picture of him being a criminal. Well, he is a criminal. I just showed you where he had been in prison, where his mom said he had been in prison, and the charges that he's in there for now. So this isn't his first rodeo, and I just, this was senseless, but it wasn't something that he just had a mental health breakdown and he just did it. No, it wasn't. I'm sorry, you can spin it any which way you want it. That's not what happened. I mean, maybe he did have mental health issues. I mean, again, they have treatment. They still get their mental health meds. Trust me, the doctor at the county jail that I used to go to when I was a felony PO, I used to go in there and see my people. Plus, I knew everybody at the jail that worked there. The doctor gave everybody their mental health meds, whatever other, their meds they were on for whatever. That's one thing they will give you. Now, they're not going to give you pain pills and stuff like that, but mental health medication, they do make sure you get your mental health meds because they don't want people going off. And the way this happened was not just, something that just, I don't know. Let's keep going. I get it. It's upsetting when people just keep trying to make up excuses. And I understand it's family, but still.
The family says they believe the attack on Officer Bias wouldn't have happened if Thompson had the mental health care he needed.
What Aaron did was...
Again, that's what this wouldn't have happened if he would have been... He was already in there for a month. Well, you think he just, snapped and... Maybe he wasn't taking his meds when he was supposed to. Maybe he was, spitting them out and not taking them. Who knows? But by saying, like his sister said, not by a correctional officer, he needed to be helped by what? So he could kill the doctor or kill the, whoever, a nurse? No. That's why he was in 23-1 lockdown. Let's go.
Totally brutal. I hurt for that family, but I also know that somewhere it could have been prevented.
Officer Bias's family tells us that it is too soon for them to be able to speak with us about this loss. Thompson is now being held on a $2 million bond. In Ellis County, Keenan Willard, NBC 5.
It could have been prevented. I'm going to tell you a couple ways it could have been prevented, and it wasn't because of his mental health issues or whatever. So, let's go to this here. I couldn't get the page to load, so I just went ahead and screenshotted it. And make myself a little bit smaller here. Okay, there. I'm kind of small, but you can still hear me. Thompson's previous charges, this is what he was in there for, in the jail, included 3 counts of assaulting a peace officer / judge, as well as resisting arrest, evading with a prior conviction, and public intoxication, jail records show. The charges linked to an arrest in November, with authorities at the news conference saying he's been at the jail since early of last month. See what I'm saying? He's been over there over a month. And somebody with mental health problems that's waiting for court, trial, whatever it is. Again, when you come in, they do a health and mental evaluation on you. If you have any mental health issues, or the family, did mom and sister go down to the jail and say, here's his meds. Here's the meds he's supposed to take. You know what I mean? No, I bet you they didn't. So I'm that is just, it upsets me. You know, it's not only because he was a corrections officer, he was a young man. Nobody, inmate or officer, nobody should have been killed that way, the way this officer was killed. But I'm going to show you, what happened and what led up to it. So Norman said Thompson was confined to a single cell, so he was single-celled. So obviously, because of his violence, his charges of assaulting three counts of assaulting a peace officer, or judge, resisting arrest, evading arrest with a prior conviction. Like, this guy's been to prison. You can paint a picture of him being the best person in the whole wide world, but bottom line is he's not. And that just bothers me when people do that. It really does. And I get it's family, but still. All right, so I want to, as you've seen his record, so now I want to read this article here. And this is where it kind of gets where you can understand. I'm going to explain it. Most of the time, law enforcement officers and detention officers deal with good folks having a bad day. Occasionally, we deal with bad folks, said Ellis County Sheriff Brad Norman. I can honestly say that my staff over the last day has dealt with pure evil. May God bless Isaiah's family, friends, and colleagues. The sheriff's office said 45-year-old Aaron Simeon Thompson was being held on 3 charges of assaulting a public servant and evading arrest, and was kept isolated in his cell for 23 hours a day with 1 hour rec time. Norman said as Bias directed Thompson back to his cell, he was viciously attacked by the inmate. An arrest affidavit provided the Ellis County District Attorney's Office Tuesday afternoon sheds more light on what happened. So this is where it gets a little tricky here. Not tricky, but understandably. So Bias was on the last part of his 6A to 6P shift at the Ellis County Wayne McCollum Detention Center. Video recordings from the inside the jail, inside the area called F Tank, showed at 3:33 p.m. Bias verbally contacted inmate Aaron Thompson, who was seated at a table in F Tank. The document goes on to state that Bias learned Thompson was assigned to 1 hour recreation time outside his jail cell. Detention officer Bias walked up to the second floor of the cells where inmate Thompson's cell was located and looked into other inmate cells nearby. At 3:35, inmate Thompson, or 3:34 p.m., inmate Thompson followed Officer Bias. Okay, right there. And I'm not saying anything about the officer, but number one, when somebody's on 23, you're locked down 23 hours a day, 23 and 1. I'm going to make myself bigger, a little bit bigger here now. There we go. Now, he's on lockdown, okay? He is a violent offender, apparently. Obviously, by his charges. He's been to prison. Who knows what that's for. Should never been escorted anywhere without 2 officers, number one. That's number one. There should always be 2 officers escorting an inmate like that, especially if he's got mental health issues, whatever. Like I said, they said this isn't the first time he's been there, I'm sure. 2 officers. That officer should not have been by himself trying to get Thompson back, the inmate Thompson, back to his cell. He should have not tried to do that by himself. No way, shape, or form. There should have been 2 officers And they don't talk about whether he had waist chains on, shackles, which it doesn't sound like he did. He also shouldn't have came out of that cell, until they took him to the rec area or wherever they were going to take him. And again, they should have had a minimum of 2 officers. I mean, that was our standard with anything. Anytime we escorted any inmate, 2 officers. I seen him do it with 1 before, but I'm thinking, man, that's not a good look, especially when they get away from you. We've had escapes where I worked at, from custody, from being transported, walked, and you know what I mean, by 1 officer. So it was always 2. That's number 1. Okay, number 2 is we talked about the document goes on to say Bias Learn Thompson was assigned by detention officer Bias walked up to the 2nd floor cells where inmates. Okay, so we went all through that. Officers Thompson's cell was located and looked into others. Inmate Thompson followed Officer Bias to the 2nd floor and struck him in the head using his right fist, causing him to fall to the ground. Explained the arrest warrant affidavit. Explained in the arrest warrant affidavit. Thompson started choking Bias from behind. The document goes on to say Thompson kept hitting the officer with his knee, fist, knee, and foot. According to the affidavit, Thompson stopped striking Officer Bias and returned to the 1st floor where he sat down at the table. Additional officers arrived and placed inmate Thompson in handcuffs. Staff provided the officer Bias with first aid until paramedics transported him to Baylor Scott and White Medical Center. And I'm not even going to try to pronounce that, Waxahachie, where he later died. It was a heinous, horrific, purposeful murder that was senseless and not needed, the Sheriff Norman said. Okay, so let's go back up here. Well, this is the second thing. 2 officers should have been doing this. Right here when it said inmate Thompson followed Officer Bias to the 2nd floor, struck him in the head. That means the officer was in front of him by himself and the inmate was behind him. Obviously, this officer had some type of trust in this inmate, which, again, you can't trust, any inmates capable of doing anything at any point in time, whether they have mental health issues or not. But you never let an inmate be behind you. Never. To this day, I'll go to a restaurant, I'll go to wherever it is, and because of my training and what I'm used to, I always have to sit with my back so that I can see everything that's going, so nothing can come from behind me. I can't sit like in the middle or people are walking behind me and things like that. It's just one of those things. I don't know if that my PTSD has anything to do with that, but it's embedded in my head from training and situations that I've been in. As a law enforcement, that you always got to keep your back, away, keep your back to the wall, whatever, so you can observe. Nobody can come up behind you. Unfortunately, I feel like this was a very genuine, very nice officer, corrections officer, detention officer at the county jail. It sounds like, he tried to help a lot of inmates out. Maybe he had a lot of trust in this inmate, but this is what, when you put your guard down, anything can happen. And unfortunately, this happened. And I feel really bad for him, for everybody involved, except for the inmate that did it. I don't feel sorry for him at all. So my heart, my condolences. Let me get back bigger here now. So my heart and condolences go out to the victim's family, friends, co-workers, anyone that knew him. Again, this, I don't agree with the family. This guy is not his first go-round in prison. He's been to prison. It's not his first go-round with violence. 3 counts of attack on a peace officer. That guy should have never been out of his cell for that 1 hour without a minimum of 2 officers, and he should have been shackled up, waist chained, belly chained, waist chained, whatever you want to call. Everybody calls them something different. Leg shackles, and that's the way he should have been escorted for his rec time. And then I don't know how the rec's set up, though. That's the thing. But regardless, that's the way he should be escorted in and out of his cell. And 2 officers at all times. That's just my opinion. Not saying things can't go wrong, but it have went to that extent of that, horrific beating that officer endured by that inmate. No, that wouldn't have happened. So again, my heart goes out to the family, friends, co-workers, everybody. It's just another, unfortunate incident that happens in that setting. And like I always say, if you're going to sign up for that job, you have to be prepared for the worst. Unfortunately, this young kid, I'm going to call him a young kid because he's, he is young to me. He's a young kid to me. I have kids that age. He's a young kid. Unfortunately, something like this happens. But I feel like the sheriff or whoever was in charge of that unit should have made sure there was 2 officers, or that he was, restrained when he was taken out with restraints. And every time he moved, because you don't know what he's, with his violent history, that, like I said, I had to go through so much stuff, and they don't talk about it a whole lot. But anyways, that's what I got for you guys today. Sorry it took so long. I just wanted to get that out there. I don't know if anybody's seen this, covered this yet, but I definitely wanted to cover it because it is, regardless of what the circumstances, this officer has a family, friends. He's a brother. He could be I don't think he was a father yet, but he was an uncle. He was a son. It's just, it's sad. And my heart goes out to the family. And I hope that they put some training techniques. And that's one of the things about it, is you can't ever get complacent. You can't ever put your guard down when you're working in that type of environment, because you just never know. Somebody could be the nicest, never got in trouble inmate, can snap like that for whatever reason or no reason. And you just never know. You never know. So you always got to be on guard. Anyways, with that, I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.